Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Jenny Aiello, and this is With Love, Jenny, a podcast where we meet ourselves right in the heart of our vulnerability and authenticity. In this sacred space, where it's just you and I dive into real life, rich with wisdom and opportunities for deep healing. I explore what it means to truly connect to ourselves, to each other, and to something much greater than us all. In each podcast, I like to meet life right where it touches us most, in our tenderness, in our truth, in our struggles and our strength. So wherever you are on your journey, or whatever it is that you're carrying, no matter how light or heavy, just know I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of With Love, Jenny. Today, my co-host Kristen and I are going to continue our discussion of what to do during your dark night of the soul. In our last episode, we discussed 5 tools that will help you if and when you find yourself in those darkest hours. And today, we are going to continue that discussion and explore 5 new tools, and all of them helping you pick yourself up and allowing yourself to heal, embrace joy again, and restore yourself in mind, body, and spirit. I'm your host, Jenny Aiello, and let's get started. Kristen, in our last episode, a lot came up for both of us in that discussion, both on the podcast and over in the blessing room. And I'm wondering if you could share what happens to you when you find yourself falling into those dark moments. And then when you look back to some of the dark moments of your life that you've had, what happened? And can you identify if any gifts emerged as a result?
Those are 3 deep questions.
Yes, we're diving in.
I feel like when I am triggered by my darkest hours that have happened to me in the past, I lack a sense of my center. I get very lost in myself. I ruminate in my thoughts, and I'm trying to grasp onto things that are already over. So it's a very strange thing that's going on inside me. I get really bad anxiety. I feel like I have conflicting thoughts happening. But like you, it was interesting when you started talking about the plan for these podcasts, and you told me that you were trying to figure out your darkest hour. I started writing mine down, and I'm like, okay, I don't have just one. A lot of people think it's one defining darkest hour, rock bottom moment. But I think that they continually happen through your life, and they happen for a reason. And there's always a gift, which Jenny has taught me. It was very hard for me to look at. But I came up with 6 points in my life that I felt like were dark hours. And like Jenny, one stood out to me that I never really dwelled on as a dark hour. And it happened to be the other side of Jenny's exact story, in a sense. It's a mother-daughter relationship. And mine happened around 19 years old. And to give you some background, my mom and I have always had a rocky relationship. She's very depressed. I didn't know how to relate to that. I always felt like, was I adopted? Like, I literally thought that I really wanted to find my birth certificate. Like, was I adopted? This doesn't make sense. And I was continuously disappointed because my mom did not have her own tools to show up for me the way I needed a mom to show up for me. And at 19, I started drinking, and my mom couldn't handle it, so she kicked me out. And that was a very defining moment to me that, no, your mom can never be there for you the way that you need her to be there for you. She just kicked you out. She didn't want to deal with it because she had her own stuff to deal with. And it's easier for me to look back now. But it was very hard. I went into the world crazy partying and drinking and doing drugs. And I picked up this guy that I was with for 7 years that was not good for me at all. And I wonder, would the trajectory of my life had been different if my mom would have sat me down to talk to me about my drinking in a caring moment?
Do you think if she had, you would have listened?
No. But looking back, that's what I would have
Right.
wanted. I would have wanted someone to be like, let's get you some help, you know?
Or right now to know that she noticed and at least tried, even if you rejected it.
And she may have, I don't think she did, but I blocked so much out. I've put such a huge wall up that I don't even want to remember what happened on the other side of the wall. I got out of the house, which was a goal of mine.
Okay.
To get out of that house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did, but not in a way on my terms. I got kicked out.
Right.
So that was a really dark time for me. But through working with Jenny as my coach and doing trauma healing retreats with her, I'm able to look at my mom as a catapult to teach me how to break this pattern of no, the ancestral lineage is not going forward in this manner anymore. It stops with me. And I thankfully was born with a lot of determination and gumption in my heart, thankfully, because I think I would have been her.
Yes. Yes.
But now I can look at that and be like, okay, thank you for pushing me. Thank you for pushing me. Thank you for pushing me out.
Right. Right. Like that's the gift, because while you might have spiraled out for 7 years or however long, you went down that road, that was what you chose to do. Right. And that was that was your path. That was the way you coped. And that was using the tools that you knew. But you also know of yourself when you said, was I really just adopted? How can this be? Because you never felt like you fit in to the energy that was around you. And what I know of you is that you have this beautiful, bright spirit inside. And when I hear your story, I think, wow, like you were the light. You literally were and are that light. And, if a candle is put under a glass dome, it runs out of oxygen and it snuffs itself out, right? The candle has to have oxygen to continue to burn. And that's the image I see when I picture you as this like flickering candle, and you went through, like you were this bright light. Then when your parents separated, you got the glass dome and you were left in this vacuum where there was nothing feeding you. And all you wanted was to be able to get out. Your mom, having gone through whatever she went through in her upbringing and in her marriage and then in her divorce, it might have been the straw that broke the camel's back for her. And she just never recovered. Yeah. And she was doing the best she could. And maybe if she was depressed, she had no energy. It takes a lot of energy to deal with a rebellious child using drugs and alcohol and wanting out, right? And she may have just not had what she needed to be able to give that to you. But also admitting, well, I didn't necessarily I wouldn't have accepted it had she done anything. I was
already angry at her.
Yeah. You were itching for that, right?
Right.
And so the gift of that is to look back with compassion and understanding and say, for me, the gift was I did get out and it wasn't on my terms and I wasn't equipped. And I'm bitter about that. But maybe it all happened for me to learn this, to learn I have gumption. You said I had a lot of that in my heart. Well, you got to see how it played out. So you drew from some of those tools that we talked about in the last episode of who am I, and you go about learning that, and you learn it through who we're not sometimes. We try things on, when I go to a store and try on clothes, it's like, oh, this is totally not my style. I can't wear that. We try things on and then go, yeah, I tried that. It wasn't very good. It didn't light my soul up to be in that lifestyle.
That's how I felt about drinking. Like I tried drinking on. I held on to it for a while and then realized it was not serving me at all.
Right. So that's how these things they happen to us, but if we look at it through the lens of it's happening for me to learn and grow and heal, and sometimes you said something important, I want to circle back. Sometimes that healing is generational. Sometimes it's ancestral. Like maybe your mom's mom passed on something to her that was unhealed and she didn't have the tools to heal it. And then it gets passed on to you. And here you are saying, I'm going to learn everything I can about this. And it's all hands on deck with you. Like you are definitely all in on the healing journey, right? Because you're not just doing that for you. You're doing that so it's not passed on to your boys. You're doing that so that that pain stops here. And you cannot heal that and hold resentment and anger at the same time.
I know this in my mind.
Yes. But it's still serving you. And you know what? That's why for me, it was 5 years before I could even start thinking about letting go of the pain. Sometimes that's all we have left.
Like you just said, it's still serving me. There's still some good in this for me to find, which is what you learn when you do this work. It's like, and people are, my sister who listens to this, who's going to laugh when she hears that, she's like, Kristen, what's the work? You keep talking about the work.
Right.
The work is slowing down and getting to know yourself and becoming aware of how things are working and not working for you.
Right.
Would you agree?
Right. Yes,
yeah.
It is. It's not out there. The work isn't controlling the world and the people in it. The work is going in to the dark hours that we've had and gleaning from it. I was blown away. Like first I told you in the last episode, what was my darkest hour? Well, I listed 10, right? And then had to pick one. But before I went any further, I went through this list. I'm looking at it and I was like, how old was I when that happened? How old was I when that happened?
I did it too. I wrote my ages next to all of them.
Yes. And I have to tell you, looking back, I am like, wow, look at that girl who was 20 years old and how scary and how sad and how lost she was feeling, when she was 20. And I have compassion for her and I have enormous respect for how she got through. And then that mother of two who never dreamed of being divorced and being a single mom, I have enormous compassion and respect for look how she navigated her way back to wholeness, and I look at how old I was when I lost my brother. I look how old I was when all these other dark moments came up for me and brought enormous, I want to go sit down and interview myself at each of those ages and say, how did you know to do that? How did you know to get through it? How did you, what was the ingredients of that? And that's what led to wanting to have this podcast in the first place, is that when we do that, when we stop and look at who we were that got through and did those hard things, we learn so much about what we learned that we haven't anchored into our mind and our hearts. So in our last episode, we talked for a while about 5 tools that support us in our most difficult and dark moments. And we talked about the importance of having a strong sense of who you are, which is each of those ages on my list. I look at what did they have in common? What was something I was being in that moment that got me through? What is true about who I am? And then we talked about it's important to really keep your pulse on your self-esteem. Take a pulse every day. How's my self-esteem today? Am I triggered? Am I feeling less than? How's my self-esteem? Because that's what regulates our emotions. So if we have something whammy us today on a low self-esteem day, like we're down in the tank real quick. So we also talked about what it means what do you put your faith in? And we're not talking about the religion but what or whom do you put your faith in? What belief? What is it? What is your philosophy about life? Do you see the glass half empty? Do you see the glass half full? Or do you just live in gratitude that you even have a glass? How much do you trust yourself and the life that you have? And how much do you trust God and a higher power? And then last we reviewed the devastating effects of getting attached to outcomes. So today, we're going to discuss 5 more tools that I believe helped get me out of my darkest hours. And before we go into those, I also want to point something out. We had intentionally named these 2 episodes Feeling Our Way Through the Darkness, because I imagine, being in a dark room and you didn't know what was in the room, you're like blind, that you're kind of walking with a walking stick. Your hands are out front. You're making sure you're not going to run into something or trip over something. You're just feeling your way through the darkness. But because we wholeheartedly believe that you have to feel it to heal it, we have changed the name of this to Healing Our Way Through the Darkness. When we allow ourselves to feel the feelings that come in those darkest hours, we give them a voice. We begin the healing process. It's as simple as that. Give them a voice. Let them name what the fear is, what the pain is, whatever it is. And I'm a big believer in this concept. Naming the feeling and asking it what it wants to say. If it's deep sorrow, let it express itself through journaling or talking to someone or any kind of creative endeavor. I used to pick up a paint and acrylic paints and a canvas, and I would paint the feeling, abstractly paint it with no worry at all. Sometimes it would just be a big, dark spiral of darkness and mess and mud colored paint that didn't look inspiring. And I would paint it. It would get it outside myself. And I would say, that is what I feel like today. And I'd have a conversation as I did it. I let it be expressed. If it's grief or anger or bitterness, name it, feel it, let it talk to you first. And then when you're ready, let it go. Just release it. If there's more, it'll come back around. But the more you're willing to be interactive with it and let it go, the better. But to do that, you have to have these tools, right? Like if you just blindly start going, I'm going to express my anger out in the world. Well, we see people doing that and it doesn't go well. It's not a good look. It's certainly not raising the frequency of our planet. It's lowering it, right? If we're walking around indulging our shame, it's not good for anyone. So you need to have tools in order to have those tools and have those conversations and allow and explore the wounds and the healing process. So it's a specific formula to be able to do this work. So we're going to start now with number 6 of our 10 tools for healing our way through the darkness. And I'm laughing because after we finished the last episode and we were finished with the blessing room, Kristen made a comment about, I know you always say that, but I really have trouble with this, accepting all this stuff. And so I said, guess what? Our first tool of the day is acceptance. I had to accept my daughter's decision to live her life on her own terms. I had to. I didn't have to like it, but when I accepted it and I accepted that this is how it needs to be right now, through that acceptance, I then was able to move on. And that was definitely hard, but I did move through it. And I did come out with an open heart and a healed heart and a loving heart. I don't have resentment and anger, and sometimes it can show up as sadness. I think there will always be, that one part of my heart that is holding space for her, and the vacuum that's there in her silence and her absence. I honor it and I acknowledge it, but I don't fill it. I don't feel that. It's like a closet that's empty waiting for a homecoming. But if I stuff everything in it of resentment and anger and frustration, it'll be full and I won't be able to really open it up and welcome that to come through, right? Yeah. But acceptance, it's an interesting word and we're going to talk about it. I want to get Kristen's take on it because she was sharing how that can be triggering for her. And I want to say before we dive into the conversation that acceptance is different than the kind of accepting in a tolerant. I'm going to accept, if you substitute tolerate, being treated poorly.
Right.
because I have to practice acceptance. That's not the same interpretation of this. This is saying, I accept the things I cannot control. First line in the serenity prayer, serenity to accept the things I cannot change, right? That's the kind of acceptance. It brings serenity to you. It brings peace. I can accept that this is out of my hands. And I don't like it, but I accept it so that I can find peace and move forward. Does that help clarify it, Kristen? And tell us kind of what shows up for you around that word.
Yeah, that word, it helps that you are telling the listeners that there's two different definitions, because that's where I struggle. Like I can now accept the childhood that I was provided. I can now accept that my mom is who she is, but I will not accept how I feel in her presence currently. Like I need to take action.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I feel like acceptance is denial that you can do better, if that makes sense. Like I feel like my mom has accepted her depression and she's not taking any action to get out of it. Well, I can't accept that.
Right. Well, here's where I will challenge you to say, I can accept that's her decision. And with each choice we make about what we accept, there are consequences, good and bad. So I accept that you have decided to live your life this way, and that isn't the way I want to live my life. And I can love and accept you where you are. It's okay for you to be there because that seems to be working for you. It won't work for me to be interacting with that. And so accept is like, you can't change your mom. You can't control what she's choosing. You can't make her change so you can feel better. That's self-serving. So,
but it's almost like, is accepting giving up? Like if I accept how my mom is, am I giving up any potential that she could change?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, this is so rich. I love how we go into these conversations. So it's going to go into another word for a minute, but I want to say it's related. And that is people confuse surrender with giving up. And surrendering, we're going to do a podcast about surrender.
Which ironically, just so the listeners know, my word of the year is surrender.
Yes, it is. Welcome to the first quarter of 2024. We're in it. So acceptance isn't a giving up. It's accepting what is while holding space for what could be.
Now that feels better.
Okay. Yeah. I accept that she is where she is, and I am holding space for what could be without attachment, because that's what we talked about in our last episode. Attachment to outcome is a destroyer of joy a lot of times. So yes, it's hard, but accept what is while holding space for the possibilities of what could be.
That feels so much better, because it's like if you use the example of cancer or my brain bleed, like I accept that I had the brain bleed, but I can't just sit here and do nothing and be a victim to it. I think that's where I get stuck. Are you a victim when you just accept?
Okay, I see the attachment between those two words, that if I accept it, then I'm just sitting here being a victim of it. Where for me, when I accept it, it's the first step out of victimhood. Actually, I say in my coaching model, awareness is the first step. Once you're aware, then you can choose to accept what is. And then based on accepting, I cannot change this situation. I can either stay stuck in a holding pattern until it changes, or I can move forward with anger and resentment or with grace and ease. So awareness of what it is, acceptance of what I can and cannot change. Third is the action I take. I get to choose if it's going to be from victim or from a place of empowerment. I always try to choose my place of empowerment is to let go with grace and ease and move forward and do good. That's my philosophy. So
it's like accept and move forward, not accept and be stuck.
Right.
That just hit me.
Yes. Accept and move forward. And you can say, I'm going to accept it and I'm going to move forward with anger and resentment and still be stuck. because you're still in it. Or you can say, I can accept this and I'm going to move forward with grace and ease and let go of the things I cannot change.
Yeah.
Because all you have the ability to do is control you. And how you think and how you feel is up to you. We often say, you made me feel that. No, they revealed something you already felt.
Which is really hard to accept.
It's a hard one to accept. It really is when we want to be a victim.
Yeah.
So, right? So acceptance is part of the formula because it's how we start to move forward. Resistance is the opposite. If I don't accept it, I will resist what is. And resistance, what we resist persists. So nothing changes. So the acceptance piece is crucial in unlocking that, in my experience and in my opinion. The second word, the seventh in this series today, is support. And it is crucial to surround yourself with the right kind of support. This one is so important to me. I have to say, when we're in our darkest hour, we are experiencing vulnerability and we're raw, right? And so it's not a time to inject harsh energy. It doesn't matter if it's watching violence on television or engaging in gossip or going to lunch with a bunch of toxic people when you're vulnerable and sitting in your darkest moment. It's just never, ever, ever a good idea. And you're busy containing your inner critic and your inner judge, and exposing yourself to others who are judging other people only reinforces the voices that are going on in you that are bringing you shame or pain. And so you really have to be careful and surround yourself with the right kind of support. My world became very small when I was going through another one of my children's lessons that was being taught to me. And I had to withdraw and get fairly quiet. And I knew that I needed to be around people who, one, could respect my boundaries and not get their feelings hurt, who, if I had to cancel at the last minute because of a circumstance, would not be offended, but support me in that circumstance, who knew what I needed, even when I didn't know what I needed, and offered their support with love, but still respected my boundaries. You need people to have a good self-esteem that don't get offended, by whatever is happening or whatever you need to process. I also know you have to be careful who you seek advice from. Only you really know all the parts of what you need. And other people bring their experience to the table and think they know the answers that are best for you when they may not be. And I loved seeking the guidance and counsel of people that I respected. And even then, sometimes it didn't fit. And if you don't have your self-esteem intact and you don't know who you are and you don't know what you have faith in when things are happening and you haven't used all these tools, if you take that advice, it could not work. And then what? Or you can say, I feel good enough about myself to say that's not a fit for me. Thank you for giving that to me. It's not a fit right now. And I believe I can find what I need inside. So find the person or people who can sit with you. And that might mean sit in silence inside your pain with just the right amount of compassion and care. That kind of help is priceless. I had someone recently tell me that she's suffering some neurological things and it manifests with shaking. Her hands jerk and move involuntarily. And she was at lunch with a friend and she went to drink her iced tea and her hand jerked and she dropped the glass on the table and iced tea went everywhere. And she got more anxious having spilt it, immediately, like all the critic of her self-judgment, her shame, her embarrassment, her humiliation, everything showed up and that made it worse. And so she dropped her fork and you just kept stumbling through this moment. And the person with her just put her hand on her arm and she said, it's okay. No harm done. Just take a deep breath. We've got this. But she touched her arm in the most kind and loving way and said, hey, it's okay. we've got this. There's no harm done here. Those words were so comforting. And I said, did the jerking of your hand stop? And she said, it did. It went away and we cleaned it up and I had a lovely lunch. Find those kind of people. Put boundaries around all the rest. Have you had experiences, Kristen, with people that supported you in a way that maybe wasn't helpful?
Yes, definitely, which led me to not trust that I could find the support that I needed. And I went on a journey for a while of not having faith or trust in anything, but I got to a point where I literally felt like I'm so sick of my own shit. I cannot live this way anymore. I am waving the white flag. God, who I did not call on often, please help me. And it started showing up in very small ways, like the Western mind wants it to happen right now.
Yes.
That doesn't happen. And it may be showing up in ways that you don't notice because you're not paying attention, which I've realized as well. But for me, I wanted help so bad. And somehow, I'm such a big believer in synchronicities. It's my favorite thing when I notice them. Like I just cannot even get enough of it. And my friends recommended the show to me and it started me on a trajectory. Super Soul Sunday with Oprah. I grew up with Oprah. Oprah was my babysitter after school. I watched her show in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
She had on the most profound people in this. It happened to be the season where I needed these people. Tara Brach, Michael Singer, Adyashanti. All of these people that I expected a teacher to be my personal teacher. Like I was going to have a phone call. Whoever this person was going to be my mentor. But my first mentors that really got me thinking about my inner world were these big name people that I couldn't talk to, but I listened to their YouTube videos. I read their books. I can't even explain to you how much Tara Brach has helped me in my emotional inner world. And then one day, I didn't ask for this. I was throwing a baby shower. I met Jenny. Like when you ask, the universe will bring you these people. I now have a therapist that I would have never sought out if it weren't for a friend telling me what EMDR was. I just started doing somatic healing, which is healing stuck trauma in your body. First of all, I didn't even know this existed, but if I wouldn't have said yes to all of these things that were presented to me, I wouldn't have got the help that I needed. So I guess my point is to ask for help and not ask people in your current world that probably can't help you. I'm saying ask your higher power and see what happens. Like, yes, I'm still amazed.
Yes. The helpers show up and they show up in all kinds of different manners. And like you said, it doesn't have to be an in-person. You know, it can be that you're, walking down an aisle in a bookstore and a book is sitting funny on the shelf and you pick it up to put it back in its place. And it's like, oh, maybe the title just pulls you in. I've had that happen. And it's like, I go home and read it cover to cover because that's what I needed in that particular moment. It's paying attention to that and letting the support, you can tell because you get pulled into it in a way that like your soul craves it. I feel like my soul recognizes those teaching moments, those mentors, those guides before I do. It's like I get drawn in and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I can't get enough of this. And I listen and read and spend time with, some are human people, some are, friends, family members that offer just the right word. But it's knowing and trusting that if you're craving it, you need it, go get it. Sometimes I crave standing before the ocean. I just need to stand with my feet on the edge of the water, letting the waves just kind of go up to my ankle, back and forth. And I look into the vastness of that ocean and it does something to my soul. And sometimes that's all I need is just to breathe the air. And I think it's that I feel small in front of the ocean. It's so big and it's been here like since the beginning of Earth, doing its thing. And I'm such a grain of sand next to that time span. And so my problems are even smaller than that grain of sand. And I just feel like I breathe it in and I feel like all is well. And sometimes I have to go to that, or I have to go to the mountains, or I have to find a waterfall, or I'm a big chasing eclipses, the solar eclipse, the ring of fire. I chase those. I love those moments. What is it doing for me? I don't know. But I know my soul loves being in those spaces. So I get support in all kinds of ways besides the learning and the growing and the people interaction, or nature is a huge support. Earthing is a huge support. Forest bathing is a huge support. There's all kinds of those kinds of things that fall in the category of get support. And I had to embrace all of it. It was all hands on deck for me when I'm in a dark hour, right?
Well, and it's also just paying attention. Like there's so much support that you don't even notice. Like if you slowed down and really thought, what could support me in this moment? Like the mountains, like you said, the mountains are so supportive to me. My body physically craves them. I have to get there a couple times a year. Like notice those feelings of where you feel supported and make sure that you can incorporate them. But I guess my biggest point is just notice what is coming into your awareness.
Yeah.
Because you are your own healer. So the support is coming to you.
Yeah. And we just have to slow ourselves down. You mentioned slowing down, and we're going to go into that in a minute. But so if I forget, let's come back to that, because the slowing down is a huge part of this. When you're in your darkest hour, you're going slow. You can't speed your way through. So things have to slow down around you and within you for it to heal. So pay attention to that as support as well. All right. This is number 8 in the lineup. We did 5 on our last podcast, and this is number 3 today. So boundaries. I have to tell you, boundaries are like a beast. I was boundaryless as a mom. I would step over any boundary if I thought it was going to be helpful for my kids, and including their own boundaries. And that's one of the many aspects of what I learned that was not the best parenting style. And recognizing in all the ways that I can do that and did do that was huge. I had to learn what boundaries were. It's a pretty complicated learning curve. I actually, didn't know that we have to know internal boundaries, meaning I have to keep my container contained. I don't let my words fly out with anger or resentment. Like I don't let that unhealed wound or the volcano that's in there spew all over people. That's the internal containment boundary, which is controlling what I say, choosing my words carefully and not be reckless with them in a fit of anger. But also external boundaries, which kind of hold a gate out in front of you, so that if someone else is boundaryless and their container empties and they come at you spewing stuff, that your external boundary is there saying, I'm going to let this slide off like Teflon because this is more about you than me right now. I'm going to listen to what you're telling me in your anger, because there might be a few nuggets of truth that I'm willing to take and examine, but I get to control what I let in, and I get to control what I say. That's not about me, and I'm not going to take that in. Now, this gets tricky because if we are in self-denial about some aspect of ourself that's being boundaryless and hurtful to others, and someone's shouting at us about it, and we are like, I'm sorry, but that's about you and not me. We can do our, snooty version of being boundaryless, but it's really saying, I want to take that feedback in, and I'm going to need some time to really sit with what you just said, and I can promise you that I will do that. But right now it's hard for me to hear you because you are saying it with so much emotion and anger. So I'm going to filter through that the best I can. And I'm going to come back to this conversation later, but put a boundary on the conversation. I was boundaryless, and I will tell you, boundaryless people crave connection. And if somebody on the other side said, I'm going to take in what you just told me, and I'm going to come back to this when I can have a healthy conversation, I would not like that. I did not like people leaving when you have to stay until we kiss and make up. I have to know that we are okay. That was a boundary for me to feel okay, but it was not respecting other people's need for a boundary. So learning how to maintain and set and maintain my inner containing boundary of what I say and what I let in energetically, verbally, physically, all of that. What gets in my space? I don't like harsh energy. I don't like really loud noise. That's a boundary for me. Like, I can't be in spaces with really loud noise. I have hearing difficulties. It's exhausting. It's not good for me and my energy. So I put a boundary around those when I can. But I had to also learn my inner and outer boundaries, but then I had to learn to respect other people's boundaries. And if that meant they needed a timeout and they needed to have time to digest stuff and things had to remain unresolved for another day or two, I had to learn to be okay. That's when I went back to, I got to have some good self-esteem. Let me stroke my self-esteem. I'm okay. I can do hard things. I am always going to come from love. This is the way I'm coming from love. I have to go through that whole process to allow other people to take the time they need, even if it's years, to be able to understand boundaries. Kristen, what do you have to say about boundaries?
Well, I learned through working with you that I did not know how to set boundaries. I learned that setting boundaries seemed very scary to me because I didn't want to hurt other people. I learned that I needed the boundaries because I needed to take care of myself. But I also learned that I didn't know how to respect other people's boundaries. And my example in that is with my husband. I too am like, Jenny, if there is a situation, I want to resolve it. I cannot walk away and feel this pain in my chest until he is ready to talk about it. I just can't do it. But that's not how he functions. He needs space. He needs hours, more than I can handle. But when I am able to give him that space, which is rare, but I'm working on it, it proves to be more beneficial for us in the long run. Because if I keep going at him, pecking at it, he gets angrier and angrier and says things that he regrets. I say things that I regret. If I could only just respect his boundary, but I'm so insulted by his boundary.
Yes.
That just came to me. I'm laughing about it now.
It's like, oh, your boundary's insulting me right now.
Your boundary sucks.
They do. Boundaries are hard for people who are boundaryless in nature. And boundaries are glorious for people who like walls. And so they will put a boundary up, and if you don't respect it, they'll throw up the wall, right? And that's what my daughter did. And because I was boundaryless. And boundaries are what make you safe. You're not safe for anyone if you don't have good internal and external boundaries. And if they don't know how to respect them, you're not safe with them. And so boundaries create safety in the relationship. They are one of the most important contributing factors in having a healthy relationship, is learning to set, maintain, and respect boundaries for yourself and for the other person. And it took me years I'm still in recovery over being boundaryless because it shows up, but I recognize it and I can catch it. And I have tools now to know what to do. And I have now a lot of positive experiences by speaking them and setting and maintaining and respecting boundaries that I know they work. So even though my default might be to be boundaryless, I'm like, oh, remember that leads to disaster, and how much healthier it is if you just have them, I go back over to that. I will go, oh, okay, let me catch it. Sometimes I'm already out of the gate and I have to apologize and pull myself back in and get behind the boundary. But boundaries are everything to me. They were, I think, one of the biggest immediate results that I saw in recovery from the dark night of the soul. So, and boundaries in my thought, boundaries with my actions, boundaries around, like we talked about, what to say to those voices, demons, whatever pops out of the shadow part of ourselves that try to convince us that we're horrible people. It's like, put boundaries around them. Like, I hear you, and right now I'm not up for this conversation. Get in line. I'm not, it's not good for me. Get yourself centered and then go back and say, all right, what was that about? Let's talk, right? You can have those conversations with the shadow voice, but do it when you are able to do it in a healthy way, not when you're indulging.
I like that you recognized not only putting boundaries outside of you, but also boundaries inside of you. I think that's a really important thing to take in.
Yeah. Boundaries go everywhere. They're inner and outer, everywhere. Everywhere I go, they're in my head. They're in my energy. They're on my calendar. They're in my money. Boundaries are everywhere. Now for me, and they need to be everywhere, because that's what helps us live fully, and that's what keeps us safe in the relationship with ourselves and with each other. The 9th one is professional support. I didn't know much at all about boundaries, and that first time I went to a therapist, that was what came up. And I went and got help, and I worked with her to learn all the intricacies I could about what it meant to have healthy boundaries. And I practiced setting them, and I've been practicing them ever since. I had a coach. I had another therapist. I have worked with somatic healers. I worked with shamans. I worked with energy healers and wellness coaches about how to just balance mind, body, and spirit. I mean, it was all hands on deck for me. My primary care physician, I was working with everyone to keep myself on my own 2 feet. And I have to say that, there's some important discernment in this area, because if you get a coach or you go to a therapist or you start working with someone and you aren't connecting for some reason, it's just not working, listen to that voice too. Because when it's a match, they might challenge me and I might get mad at them, but that's different than connecting, because a good coach is going to challenge you. A good therapist is going to, dismantle your story to help you create a new, better story, right? And sometimes when people are helping us do that, we don't like it. But you want to know that you could trust them, that they do operate with your best interest at heart. And so you want to take the steps that you need to take to get professional support. I'm married to one of the best psychologists ever. I said that God must have known I needed one full time, and said, "Hey, Bob."
We love Bob.
But yes, we do. And he's the best. But sometimes I have to let Bob be Bob and be my husband. And he's part of what I need to work through. So I encourage you to still invest in a good support team, a therapist, coach, whatever is strikes your fancy. Don't rely on your sister, your friend, your neighbor to process everything. They can help in between. It's good to have that circle, but you need that good, objective person, sounding board, that person that knows you and is going to not worry about hurting your feelings or getting into an argument, or, oh, if I tell her that, then she won't want to go to the movie with me tonight. And so it's like, get that safe place to put everything on the table. And that professional support, it's huge. Don't try to do it alone.
And huge, especially if you have like PTSD from childhood, like your friend's not going to help you with that. You need someone that is trained. And my therapist has told me like it is sometimes. I was like, what did she just say? But then I take it in differently. I'm like, oh yeah, that is true.
Right, right. And Kristen, you had just recently had the experience of working with a somatic healer. It's our favorite, Grace Scarborough, who's awesome. But one of the things you had said to me was that someone was like, you were listening to someone talk about, I was in like, I don't think she called her the darkest hour, but she was going through something. And she said, I'm doing all the things. I'm listening to affirmations. I'm meditating. I'm eating healthy. And I still feel, the same. It's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to take a minute when we are under the category of professional support, because the type of support you need to understand what it is you need. Anything that is an emotional wound, a classic emotional woundedness, is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, traditional therapy works great. It helps. Talk therapy is good. Talking to a coach, working through it. But the deeper it goes, the more refined that support needs to be. However, if it's trauma, talk therapy isn't going to resolve trauma, because trauma is a nervous system issue.
Yeah.
It isn't a cognitive issue. And there's a big difference. And I think we all are walking around with collective trauma, and all of us could use some work with a trauma specialist. And there are trauma-informed approaches to doing this healing work. Our retreats have a trauma-informed approach to addressing that, but we also incorporate somatic experience into the retreat by bringing in a somatic experience therapist, Grace, and other people can go to a therapist who is trained to do EMDR or brain spotting. These are all really, really good things to help you calm the nervous system and release the trauma from your nervous system. Our body keeps the score. There's a book called that. And it builds over time. So if you are doing a lot of talk therapy and you've been doing affirmations and meditations, you're just like, it's still there. I still get so triggered. Maybe consider seeking out help for that trauma. Really important.
Yeah. My first session with Grace, which she does virtual, if anyone's interested, was so, well, actually, this was my second session with her, because my first session was 3 years ago at retreat, but was so profound to me. The way that she was able to get me to slow down in our session was so healing. And she's like, this is going to feel uncomfortable and unnatural because you're not used to this, because you're always at the top of the fight mountain. You never come down to rest. Like, I'm going to keep bringing you back down. And it was very awkward feeling. But by the end, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know how much I needed that. And a couple of times she was, Kristen, I'm going to say a statement, and I want your whole body to take it in. And she said it like 3 times during the session. She goes, you survived.
Yes.
And to pause and to really let your body feel that. Like, you can't, like, these simple things, like, you have no idea that this could help you, but this trained person,
yes,
can point you in the right direction.
Yes. Yes.
I'm so excited about my somatic journey.
Yeah, it is amazing. She has helped so many of us. In her work, she starts telling you that the definition of trauma is that too much, too fast. Too much information came in too fast for you to cognitively process it, which is why it's stored in our nervous system. So in a somatic experience, she purposefully makes it goes very slow. We slow down. Sometimes she'll have you actually move a certain way. I had kicked my shoes off. I always kick my shoes off. I'm almost 90% of my life, I'm barefoot. And I had noticed that during an exercise, I was looked down. I'm like, I don't know when it happened, but I took my shoes off. And so she had me put them back on, but putting my foot into the shoe extremely slow. And I have to tell you, Kristen and I both go pretty fast in our life. We're a fast-paced people. So going slow is almost like going to feel like trauma, right? But it isn't. It actually releases trauma. And I have been approaching these beginning months of 2024 as an intentional slowing of my mind and body and spirit. And it's been some of the most healing moments because I'm moving slowly. So that's another option for seeking professional support. And I imagine in upcoming episodes, you all will get to meet and hear from Grace herself. We will be having her as a guest. But I want to wrap up here with our last but not least 10th tool. And it is that of having a mindfulness practice. We want to start being aware. I mentioned that earlier. It begins with awareness. Awareness is you have to be mindful to be aware. You have to slow down and look around. You have to analyze or ask questions, get curious with your mindfulness, and incorporate that with meditation, journaling, praying, exploring everything around you as you memorize the place that you're living in. Like, just take in the room, harness the power of self-reflection. This helps you feed and nourish your heart and soul, and it circles us right back to what it takes to build our self-esteem. And then we just go through and do all 10 of them again and again and again. So, Kristen, what is your mindfulness practice?
Well, I love the word sacred. It's just one of my favorite words right now. I take my sacred time every morning. I wouldn't say every morning. I'm not going to lie. Almost every morning. If I'm rushed into the morning because of things I can't control, then I don't do it. But I sit and I meditate for 5 to 10 minutes, whether it's in silence. I love the free app called Insight Timer. I'm doing a meditation challenge on there right now that has been super nourishing to me. So I do some kind of quiet time. And then I come out, I have a book that I love. I know there's a lot of morning books with a message for the day. And mine is by Mark Nepo. It's called The Book of Awakening. I'm on my 3rd year with it. I still can't get enough. It's like sometimes these stories are new. I'm like, did I read that last year?
I do that too. I read it and I must have missed that day last year because we're different. We grow into new people. So when you read those year after year, and I love that he does it by date, and it's, you just open that today's date and I'll read it. And it might be the 4th time I've circled around that date, but I'll hear it in a whole new way because of the growth.
It's amazing. And then the woo-woo in me, I love Oracle decks. I have like 10 of them. I know Jenny has more than I do. I love them. I just feel like they are one modality for spirit to speak to you through the veil, for you to hear a message that you need in that moment. Mm-hmm. I always get a message. I'm like, oh, okay, yes. I hear you now.
Yeah.
And then I journal. Whatever I hear. This is another woo in me. I feel like I'm guided in my journaling. It reminds me that I'm more than just this human body. I love it. It is my centering time. My other centering time is walking. Mm-hmm. I love to walk. And this isn't my obsessive part of me, but I will not walk less than 2 miles a day. I have to get my 2 miles in. But it's such therapy to me to be out in the fresh air and moving. And again, to see that there's something bigger than me and it's not just me in this world being a victim. And also walking in the woods or sitting on the grass. Jenny has to keep reminding me. I know that is the one tool that is so damn powerful to me. And I don't use it all the time. But when I do, it's like the most nourishing thing. Like if I just lay on the grass and let the earth hold me, I don't know what is happening, but it is the most healing feeling ever.
There's actually a lot of science behind it that you all can look up. What does grounding do? But the negative ions from the earth enter our body and our electromagnetic field. And they're healing. It's an amazing, when you really look at all the science behind earthing or grounding, you can just stand barefoot on the earth and receive it. You can I love laying on the earth because I have the image of Mother Earth holding me. It's a very nurturing experience. So all of that is a way to incorporate mindfulness and awareness into your day-to-day living. And it's an important habit to try to do daily. And you can do it all kinds of ways. Breathing, breath work is huge. If you're drive every day, just every time you're at a stoplight, be mindful about, how am I breathing? Is my breathing shallow? Is it deep? Am I, these automatic things that we do without even knowing, my body knows how to make my heart beat. My body knows how to keep me breathing, and I don't have to think about it. But wow, when I combine my mindfulness to that, the breathing takes on a whole new meaning.
Well, and I think too, like when we say mindfulness, why do it? The goal that I have learned is to be present. Like I was realizing last week how much I avoid the present, how quickly I leave my body and I'm in the future or I'm in the past. So mindfulness brings you to now, which really is all that there is. And when you can train yourself to be here, everything else doesn't seem as big, I guess I'm trying to say. It feels more holy to me, like more sacred.
Yes. And it is. There is a holiness in that present moment that is all that clutter and the merry-go-round of thoughts in my head. When I get in here and now, who am I and what is most important in this moment, all that just melts away. And I just breathe into that moment and let myself be and just be here now. And it's
like the
huge.
Power in the moment is so vast and exciting.
It is when you can the trick is training your mind to stop and allow you to be present. And that for a lot of people, it's really hard because we do tend to bounce out of the present, and worry and anxiety we're out in the future. Sadness and depression, we're in the past. It's like, okay, I want to be right here in this moment. And you can bring a past memory that was happy and bring it into the present moment and feel the joy. And you can bring a memory that's sad. And then in this moment, I'm going to feel that sadness as a way of healing it. But it is what is here now. What is in this moment now? What is there for me to do now? So, yeah. Well, let's wrap up this series. This was great. I loved both these episodes, and I enjoyed the dialogue and the conversation. We would love hearing from each of you about maybe some of the ingredients that you have in your toolbox. What are the tools you use when it's time to work your way through some of those heavy life experiences that are just so difficult. It's like wading through mud up to your waist and trying to move through some of those heavy emotions. So we hope that you will put these 10 tools into practice and that they've brought you into a place of awareness and thoughtfulness about what's possible. And, I want to end by saying that in doing these practices and applying these tools, there's a certain amount of unraveling to the story that you tell yourself. And sometimes we have to grieve that. Sometimes we have to let go of where that attachment to outcome was something in the story we're telling ourselves about why we can't have it. In order to transcend through these dark hours, we do have to sometimes allow the old story to die. I don't want to tell that story about myself any longer. I remember saying, I'm sick of my story. I want a new one. I want a new book. But we're the author. We're the one writing the stories. So
you made a good point too, though. Like we've held on to these stories for so long. They are defining us.
We think they're our identity, and they're not.
But you have to grieve them and let them go. Like the grieving part. Oh, that's been put around for me.
Yeah. And that's, that has to have boundaries around it. So you have the time and space to go through that process. So all of this is under the umbrella of the work. We invite you to do the work. If you know of any guys out there that would benefit from this kind of work, I want to invite them to our men's retreat. And if you women out there are drawn to this and fascinated by what it is we're talking about through these things, we also invite you to take a look at what the women's retreat has to offer. We have one of each this year. And I want to invite you into the work. through coaching, through retreats, just listening to us, reading our blog, going to my website, get on my mailing list. We send out little encouraging, fun emails every month. So find us however we can best support you, because we love helping people do this work. And we love doing it with love. Take care. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you found a spark of wisdom to carry with you, and maybe even a deeper invitation to heal and grow and transform through your own beautiful story. Or maybe this episode made you think of someone who could use encouragement. And if so, I hope you will share it with them. If you'd like to learn more about working with me or attending one of my healing retreats, coaching programs, and other offerings, you can visit my website at jennyaiello.com or email me directly at jenny@jaiello.com. You'll find all the links in the show notes. If today's episode touched you, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with someone who might need it, or just reach out and let me know how it landed for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm building something special here. Real stories, real life, real connection. One episode, one heart, and one story at a time. As always, with love. Oh, and this is the legal message, but mostly a message from my heart. And I just need to share this with you right now. Please know this podcast is offered solely for educational and entertainment purposes. If you find yourself triggered due to anything that was shared in this podcast, please seek professional help. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for mental health services. While I am a professional life coach, I am not a psychotherapist, nor am I a mental health clinician. So if you are struggling emotionally, please seek help, because you matter, you are important, and most of all, you are worthy of doing this work, the work that leads you to a better and healthier place. Okay? All right. Thank you. And please always make enough time to take care of yourself, and do so with love.